Connection.
Hey guys, good morning everybody. Yeah, I'm getting that too. Daniel said, "Morning, man. Connection lost sound already, giving me PTSD. LOL. I know it's been going off, man. It's throwing me off today. So let's see. Good morning, everybody. Today is Monday, November 10th. Hopefully, everyone had a great weekend. 6:24 right now. We got market opening up in about 6 minutes. I'm getting a lot of connection loss right now on NinjaTrader. It's man, I don't know. I don't know. I'm gonna have to disconnect everything and reconnect everything again in a second. But all right, guys, we got market opening up shortly in about 6 minutes. Good morning, guys. Before we get started, just a quick reminder: futures trading involves substantial risk of loss and isn't suitable for all investors. You can lose more than your initial investment, and nothing you see here should be taken as financial advice or solicitation to participate in any trading program. Everything I'm doing today is for educational and informational purposes. I'm walking through my own analysis and my own trades. Past performance doesn't guarantee future results, and if I reference any backtest or hypothetical performance, understand that those results have limitations and don't reflect actual trading. Cody Kai Capital LLC is registered with the CFTC as a commodity trading advisor and is a member of the National Futures Association. I may hold positions in the markets as discussed, and my views may change at any time based on market conditions. And there goes our disclaimer for the day. So, all right, guys, let's get into the market. Anyways, like I mentioned last week, guys, I have to make this disclaimer because I mean, I guess technically I'm considered a professional trader now, and I just have to make everyone aware that trading is risky and that past performance doesn't isn't indicative of future results, of course, as you guys know that, but I just have to put that out there just so that newcomers are aware. But anyways, I've been having issues with NinjaTrader this morning. Let me disconnect and reconnect everything again. Yeah, if you guys just joined in, or if you guys were in like a few minutes ago, I've been getting this connection lost message uh, right here on open. It's really annoying that it happens, but it's all good. We'll be moving. So, guys, we will be moving over to StoneX pretty soon, I hope. We'll be moving to StoneX hopefully by the end of this week, if not next week. I just have to wait for the regulators to approve my disclosure document because my disclosure document prior mentioned that I was using NinjaTrader, and if we're moving over to StoneX, it has to be updated, of course. So I'm just gonna log into all of my accounts or everyone's accounts real quick. You guys are gonna hear it in the background ringing. A couple more. So I'm basically logging into all of the hedge fund client accounts right now. I wish there was an easier way to do this, but it's okay. I'm only going to be with Ninja for a few more weeks, I assume. All right, looks good. All right, guys, looks like we are good to go. So good morning, everybody. Today is Monday, November 10th. It is 6:28 right now. We got market opening up shortly in about a minute and a half. First entry for today, of course, is going to be the opening candle right here at 6:29. So it's going to be against momentum. Weighted percentage is 70.84%. for probability. Overall, 66.67. Buys have 57.14. Sells have 75%. Historical data shows that it won two out of the three recent sell entries, or just in general, just entries at 629. And the direction for today is going to be a sell, of course. So we got market opening up shortly. Depending on how this candle here closes, if this candle closes with a sell signal, then it's going to be a buy. If this candle closes with a buy signal, then it's going to be a sell. So we currently have a buy signal right here. Ideally, you want to look for a sell here, of course, right? Um, and we got market opening up shortly in about 30 seconds. So if you guys are looking to take this entry here, I mean, feel free to take it. Again, if you're taking the open, you typically want to go with like a 40-80 because obviously there's all that manipulation on open. It depends on how this candle here closes. So if this candle here closes with a sell signal, then it's going to be a buy. And it looks like that's going to be the case here. So this candle is going to close in a few moments. If it closes with a sell signal, it's going to be a buy. If it closes with no sell signal, then it's going to be a sell. And we are good to go. So market is now open, guys. Entry right here for the breakout again is going to be a sell. Depends on like what you guys want to set it up as. If you want a 50-50 or if you want a 40-20, if you want a 40-80, it's just up to you, however you want to play it out. Different ways to play out this entry. So different types of risk rewards that are available for this specific entry. I mean, it's just really up to you. Again, I'm not taking the entry here. You can see how market's getting heavily manipulated. This is why I don't take the opening candle, right? It's a very, very risky entry where it's a toss up in a sense. It's a toss up where like you're gonna get lucky or you're gonna get unlucky depending on where price pushes. So I didn't take that entry right there, of course. We're gonna move on to the next one, which is 632. I'm probably not going to take the 632 because I'm waiting for the market here to stabilize. We've talked about this before. I don't take any entries until the market has stabilized, right? There's no point because if you take a trade when the market has not stabilized yet, you're kind of just taking a really big risk uh, with regard to direction of price. Because obviously you're going to get all this manipulation here. If you guys didn't hear over the weekend, we are coming to a close of the government shutdown. So that's a big thing, right? We've had a government shutdown for over a month now. It's the longest time we've had a government shutdown ever in the US. And that's going to affect the market, of course. We haven't had a lot of news over the past couple weeks because of the government shutdown. This week we have a couple news events. The big ones are going to be CPI. So this is inflation week. On Thursday we have CPI, Consumer Price Index. You guys can see all the high impact news events right here. If the government shutdown comes to an end, then these news events are going to come out. If the government shutdown doesn't, then these news events are going to be skipped. And then on Friday, we have PPI, which is Producer Price Index. So with that being the case, you guys already have an idea of like what to expect this week. Today, there's no news here. There's no catalyst, but the market is reacting to what happened over the weekend, right? So you guys can see over here, huge manipulation on this candle right here. It's going to be 632 right here. So the entry right now is going to be a buy. If you guys want to take this entry, it is a buy entry. Not in the position, like I said. You got this huge manipulated candle right here on open, and price is now coming right back down. So, like I said, I typically want to take these entries here that I have highlighted, but because the market here has not stabilized yet, I'm not looking to get into anything at this moment. I'm going to wait for the market to stabilize, and then once it stabilizes, we will be looking to get entry. Let's see, Zoom user is asking, how's it a toss-up when the probability is 75%? It's a toss-up because obviously price here got manipulated, right? How can you predict where price is going to go? Like you can take you can take a trade there, but it's a toss-up because we don't know if price is going to go up or down, right? Market opens up. We have probability here that price moves up, but just because you have a 75% probability doesn't guarantee it's going to go down or it's going to go up, right? Because market here, the thing with the algo here is that it identifies entries with regard to direction of normal market conditions. The open is never a normal market condition, right? You can have all things pointing towards one direction, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to go in that direction. So that's why it's a toss-up. Because why would you take a trade? At this point, you might as well go to the casino, right? Or you might as well bet on lightning to strike you. Because at that point, you could have probability, like you could have, an edge of lightning not striking you at any point in your lifetime, but you're never going to be 100% with that, right? And the thing is, like, if you're betting on lightning to strike you and it's like during a non-raining season, I think that's going to be a good analogy for it, right? So, say for example, you're in an area. that rains, I don't know, like during a certain period of time. Like right now, we're currently in fall, right? So if you're in an area that rains and you're going to bet on yourself to get struck by lightning, your odds are going to be better in your favor, right? Because you have an idea that, okay, this is likely to happen. With the opening candle right here, you don't know if it's going to go up or down, right? The thing is, this is based on like normal market conditions. So over the weekend, we had the government shutdown news, right? The government shutdown's been going on for over a month. If the government is going to go from not shut down or from shut down to not shut down, that's good for the economy, right? Because we're going to have economic news coming out. So this stuff right here is pretty much, you get this big spike right here because of the good news that happened over the weekend. You can't base stuff off like stuff that doesn't have any effect on the market. So like over the past 4 or whatever weeks, there was no news, right, with regard to the government shutdown. The government shutdown happened like 1st of October. For the past 4 weeks, there was no end in sight. Over the weekend, there was an end in sight because they came up with let me see if I can pull it up, CNBC. So over here, I had it up yesterday, but okay, here we go. So this was released last night, right? Last night it said government shutdown could be headed for end as Senate passes first stage of New Deal. Well, what would you expect this to happen if for the market, right? Positive. So if the entry here is for a sell, like why would you go for a sell if you have this news come out and the market's opening up for the week? It just wouldn't make sense. That's why it's a toss up because there's other factors that push price in that specific direction. So that's why I was saying, like, depends on like what happens the week over the weekend because that stuff can really heavily affect the market open. Like right here, price is pushing up. Now that price is pushing up, if we have a trade that's with momentum or in that direction, obviously I would ride that in that direction because we already have where market's likely to go, right? Like for example, here 639, this is with momentum. It's not one of my target entries, but if this was one of my target entries, I would have taken that if this was for a buy, but it's not for a buy, it's for a sell. So, I mean, just use common sense, guys. You got to use common sense. Like, you just got to use common sense when you're thinking. Let's see, Roosevelt said I get that, but the time is always for the open algo at 9:29. So, to statistically on open, trades hit more often. No, none of the trades are 100%, and we've lost some of that happened whilst market is open. So it goes back to what I just explained, Roosevelt. Does it make sense what I just told you? Over the past 3 weeks, we didn't have any news of the government shutdown ending, so this wasn't highly affected. Last night, we had this news, so what do you think is going to happen, right? Price is going to go up, of course. Does that make sense? I mean, I'm trying to explain the obvious to you, but I'm not sure if you're getting it. I'm not sure if you're understanding like what I'm trying to get across to you. The thing is, like, if you look at the news every Monday for the past 4 weeks, there was no news of like the government shutdown ending. But last night, this heavily affects the market, right? Because for the past 4 weeks or month or so, there was no there was no there's no hint that like the government shutdown was going to end. So there was a lot of news that actually happened over the weekend. So over the weekend, or not the weekend, over the past week, we had news of um, the airport shutting down, right? Airport shutting down, not shutting down, but like, obviously like 10% of the flights getting canceled and stuff like that. That stuff's not good for the economy, right? Because we're going into the holiday season. If the airports or whatever are getting shut down, it's not good for a lot of these companies that are within the Dow 30, right? Like Boeing, I don't know if Boeing is still in the Dow 30, but a lot of these other companies are tied in, obviously, based off consumer spending. So that's why like last week a lot of the stuff was being affected. But you have to understand like there's stuff that happens prior to I guess the open really, because you'll base pretty much a lot of the market prior to open, right? That's why like at 629. That's why I don't like taking it because there's news events that'll come out prior, whether it's high impact, low impact, or just stuff that other catalysts that are happening in the market. Like for example, for today, we didn't have any news today. So I mean, if we didn't have this news from yesterday, the opening candle could have been possibly a good entry. But because we had news, it wasn't a good entry. Like for example, over here, there's no actual scheduled news events. But you have to look at other factors here that can really push price up or down. Because, like, for example, I mean, this is the biggest example here. I wouldn't take anything really until the market here starts to stabilize. Right here, the market is still trying to stabilize a little bit, right? It's pushing up, but this doesn't necessarily mean it's going to keep pushing up. This could flatten out. And then if it flattens out, then we're going to go against momentum back down. Otherwise, every other entry here is with momentum. So that's what I'd be looking for. Thanks, Masij. Yeah, so Masij over here kind of gave a pretty good explanation to Roosevelt here in the chat. Let's see. Smith said 632 is a buy. Both directions had a high percentage. Yeah, did that one over there hit? Let's see. 632 over here. That was with momentum. Yeah, so I actually did hit right here. So this 632 entry came up and it went straight up. I mean, personally, like I mentioned, I wouldn't really want to get into it because of the obvious reasons, but it did push up right there and it played out pretty nicely. We have the second entry over here at 639. This has an overall weighted probability of 63.34. Um, or a weighted probability of 63%. Overall, 50 for buys and 66.67 for sells. So ideally, you'd want to take a sell right here. There's no sell entry because this is with momentum and there's no sell signal there, right? Next one's going to be over here at 641. Yeah, Stern said exactly. The airport news published the news for a potential shutdown to end. Yeah, and that's big, of course, right? Like, I could say that this big push to the upside here was based off that news that happened last night. I think if the news of the shutdown ending did not come out last night, then I don't think we'd have like this big of a push. Let me see how far did it push up from. Yeah, it's like a 170 point push right there within the first couple minutes of open. Let me add my other accounts here real quick, just in case I do get an entry. All right, we have the market here kind of slowing down a little bit, which is perfectly fine. Next entry is going to be right here at 641. So this is going to be a buy entry at 641. I'm looking at the movement right here though, and from this type of the market here is starting to slow down and go sideways. We don't want this when markets with momentum, right? We talked about this over the past couple of weeks. We want price to continue pushing up because price is starting to turn around right here. This would be better if it was against momentum. I'm going to skip out on this one right here at 641. I'm going to try to get in at 643. So what I want to see here between 641 and 643 is for price to kind of pull back a little bit and then start climbing right back up, right? Ideally, that's what I want to see here because this is with momentum. If it was against momentum, then this would be fine and I would ride this back down, right? Right back down below, but these are all with momentum. So with these over here, so if you guys want to take this trade, this is with momentum. I'm going to wait to see if this here turns back around. If it turns back around, great. I'll get into the later one at 643. But at 641, I wouldn't take that trade there because, like I said, price here is starting to slow down. It's trying to turn around the other way. So before we get into these positions here, like I mentioned, if you're looking for a trade with momentum, you want to be riding momentum in that direction. The momentum is not pushing up right now, right? Momentum is actually coming down. So if this was against, I would have gotten into it, but it's not against, right? This is with. So I skipped out on that one right there. It was a good decision by skipping out on that one. Like we talked about in the past, this is really what separates someone from taking random entries and thinking trading is easy versus someone who's able to sit out of the entries. Um, because this year, if you're taking every entry as given, yeah, you could probably still be profitable, but you're going to eat a lot of losses along the way. And if you can just read the momentum or read, how price here is moving, it makes a huge, huge difference. So again, right here, like I mentioned, this thing didn't start turning around. So if it's not turning around here, I'm not going to jump in front of momentum, right? This is called catching a falling knife. If you catch a trade that's going against momentum, it's probably going to go right through and just hit your stop loss because your stops here are pretty tight. So again, here you can see the momentum is coming down, but the entry here is for a buy. I don't want to take that trade for a buy because I don't want to catch a falling knife here. Um, See, what I was looking for here at 641 is I was looking for it to start to turn, and then at 643, I was going to catch it as it came right back up. So we are waiting for this here. So this entry right here at 642 or 643 is a buy. If you guys wanted to take that, feel free. It's currently running right now. I'm not in this position. Like I said, I don't want to jump in front of momentum that's not going in my direction. Um, what I would have wanted to see is I would have wanted to see this push up at 641. So the list of trades here, guys, these act as like a timeline, right? So like basically, if I'm not getting into the first one, because you'll see sometimes that they come up right after each other. So for example, over here at 641, if I didn't start to see the turn happen, then I'm not really looking to get in at 643, right? Because you don't want to get in too early, but you also don't want to get in too late when using this. Obviously, like we mentioned, there's a lot of different factors that are kind of affecting the market right now, and a good thing we skipped out on the position right here because it would have lost. Um, a lot of people can't see this, right? They want to jump into every single position because they think, just because the probabilities show that there's a higher percentage, they're going to win the position. It doesn't just mean that. You have to use some outside factors to determine if it's going to be a good trade or not. Like I'm still looking to take these trades here, but for the most part, I make the final decision whether I get in or I don't get in. And it's not based off the technical analysis. It's mostly based off the candle right before entry, right? These candles here were some big red candles, and it's been pushing down from this area here. So obviously, I'm not going to jump in front of momentum. That's the whole point of trading momentum, right? You want to ride the momentum. So again, right there, I skipped 641 because obviously price was turning around. If this was against momentum, great. I would have gone into that, but it was with momentum. Momentum's coming down, so obviously I'm not gonna fade momentum and go against it. Next entry over here is going to be at 702. 702 over here. Yeah, Brock said he'd rather skip. I agree. Patricia also mentioned the ATR is a little high. Yeah, it's currently at 30 right now, so it's a little higher than what we like. Again, like we talked about before, guys, the reason why we don't want to take trades when the ATR is too high is because our stop loss is pretty tight. If you have a 20-point stop loss, any type of drawdown or retracement could easily stop you out. So you just got to be smart about the positions. You got to have common sense in general, guys. Um, if trading was that easy to just take every single trade, everyone would be successful at trading. But you have to understand when to sit out the market and when to jump into the market. Right now is obviously time to sit out because the volatility here is not very consistent with regard to the direction of price you want to go to, right? All these here were for buys. Momentum here has been pushing down. So since this point right here, I'm not really looking to get into any buys until it starts to flatten out. So the next intro here at 702 is going to be right here. What we're looking for is for price here to kind of flatten out and then push right back up because we want that volatility to flatline. I'm not using technical analysis here, but we want a floor to be established in a sense. Once that floor is established, we can look for price to like kind of start to push to the upside. Otherwise, price is likely to keep pushing down lower. Let's see, Brock said a buy around 310 would be nice. Let's see where the O2 finds us. Yeah, no, that'd be good too. So Brock here mentioned at the 310, so basically around this area right here. Yeah, it would be nice to see basically a double bottom happen here and price push right back up, right? Around the whole number. Yeah, although I'm not using that there for my own analysis, this is obviously a good sign if price does bounce off that point, off the psychological number, pushes up, and then we have our entry over here closer to 701. So what I'd like to see here is probably price to start to flatten out around this point and then push back up from there. All right, we don't have any entries coming up until about 7 o'clock, so we got about 12 minutes until then. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to go over here to our main chart. I'm going to go on markup structure. We don't really have much structure. I mean, we have some structure, but not really too much because price pushed up so high. So if you guys look at this, I mean, the main structure is really down here. The main structure is, down in this area right here. I'm marking up previous resistance points, previous support point down here. All right, so no entries for me so far, guys. Looks like so a lot of you guys took the 632 entry that was right over here. I mean, I didn't get into it, but it looks like Rashida got it and a couple of you guys got into that position there. So that was pretty decent entry, looks like. Like I said, it was just a little tricky because it's a big red candle. But yeah, it looks like some of you guys there did catch it. We had an imbalance right here that came up. And we still got price kind of sitting around that area where Barack is looking for price to bounce. I'll keep looking at it. Price is currently sitting right there. Like I said, I'd like price to kind of sit flat. So there's two things that I like to see right here. Either price sit flatter on this point, or if it doesn't sit flat, I'd like to see a fake out right here. So I'd like price to come below, fake out, and put back above right there. Right, basically like a head and shoulders pattern. For those of you who are training patterns, of course. Because there's two things that could happen around this area. It's either going to hold at this point or it's going to fake out and then it's going to hold. Or the third thing that may happen is a full-on reversal, right? There's two. Here's one scenario. Price holds this point and pushes back up. The second scenario is price fakes out below it. Third scenario is a full-on reversal from this point here. Right? So as you guys can see, look at this big push to the upside and a big correction back down. This is all manipulation, right? So this goes back to what I was talking about at the opening candle, right? With Roosevelt. Like this is why you don't want to trade until market here has kind of stabilized a little bit because all of this is really just market manipulation. Market opened up at 630, it pushed up and then it came back down. In order for this to not be considered manipulation, price should push up and it should continue climbing up, right? If this is where market was supposed to go today, then it would go that way. Obviously, right here, they pumped price up, then they sold off and they put price right back to where it was supposed to be, right? Right here in the middle is where price is supposed to be, right? See this whole area right here where price has been sitting? This is where price is balanced. This is where price is supposed to be, right? And that's where price came back to, right? Price over here obviously got pushed up and then it balanced back out, back down to where it's supposed to be. This is why I don't take the opening trade, and this is why I sit out the first couple minutes of open because I don't want to get caught in this fake out right here. When the market moves smooth, when it's moving how it's supposed to be, like where it's balanced, that's where the probabilities take advantage. Thing is, you can't predict this because this here can easily happen at any point on open. That's why I typically wait until like 7 o'clock for my entries because obviously you see I don't want to get caught in these types of back and forth movements here. So, I mean, if you trade the market long enough, guys, and you study the open long enough, you'll see that this happens. It doesn't happen every day. Sometimes, a lot of times, you'll see price kind of push away and just keep pushing that direction or push below and keep pushing in that direction on open. But on days like this, where price tends to basically push and then come back, these are days where, there's not really much of a direction going, or there's no direction that's really established yet. So. Yeah, so CJ said exactly, Sean. For the past 4 or 5 weeks, I took every trade on one of my accounts for a small contract size, and although I ended the day in profit, my win percentage wasn't as high as my other accounts that I traded with more selectiveness. I'm glad I forward tested it within reason to understand and analyze it for myself, though. Yeah, exactly. And like CJ mentioned over here, he said I was taking every trade regardless of the target entry, and you still ended up in profit. Yeah. So like CJ is like a clear example. Well, what he did there was a clear example of like what you could do, right? You can either take all the entries or you can be selective with your entries. Either way, you're probably going to end up in profit because the probabilities will always end up on your side, right? So, I mean, you have to think one way or the other. Like this is a conversation that we have with Ark almost every day. I think Ark is here right now. Yeah, so Ark's here right now. Ark can't choose whether he wants to take every single trade or whether he wants to take selective trades. So I always tell him just take every single trade because if you can't decide, then you're better off just taking a low contract size and take every single trade that comes up. Um, Because if you're not good at being selective, then that could be really detrimental to your account because you might take the trades that only lose and you're not going to end up in profit if that is the case, right? You got to be smart about your positions if you're taking selective entries. So just, something to keep in mind, guys, when you guys are taking these entries. I know it's hard like to make that choice, but if you really can't make the choice, just take every single entry that comes up. Even if you have to take it with one contract size, you'll end up in profit, just like what CJ mentioned. Yeah, exactly. Arc said it's very confusing. Yeah, that's why for you, Arc, it's better to just take every entry that comes up because you can't really like well the thing with you is that you're busy too. I know you're in the back doing Zumba and all that in the background. So you can't really pay attention to the trades that are coming up. So I think for you it's better to take the ones that you like to. Arc's busy in the morning, so I understand Arc's schedule. He can't really take it like he can't focus like we are here on these live sessions. Arc's got stuff to do in the morning. You got the workouts going in the morning and stuff like that. So you gotta apply what works out for you at that specific time. For me, I'm able to sit back and kind of just hang back and wait for the good entries to come up. But if you're not able to do that, then either just stick with the opening or stick with certain entries um, for whatever meets your criteria. Yeah, Rashida said I take all the target entries only if it comes in the preferred direction. Yeah, which is key. I think that's a key thing too, Rashida. Don't take every single entry, but like Rashida mentioned, she's been taking the ones that comes in the preferred direction. So like basically the ones that are green. And if they come up in that direction for a buy, of course. Yeah, and here's ARK's profit so far. So ARK's doing good for the day so far. Let's see. Yeah, so here's ARK's profit so far. ARK's currently up about 500 for the day. Nice work, ARK. All right. So with that being the case here, guys, we're getting closer to 7 o'clock. Again, at 7:01, this is going to be with momentum. If you guys are looking to get into that. Um, It's going to be with momentum. We're looking for a possible sell here. So the trade at 7:01 it has a weighted probability of 63.34. So it's not going to meet the criteria for a target entry. It has a 60% overall probability, 50% for buys, 66% for sells. It won one out of the three recent entries. So on the third, it won right here for a sell. On the 27th, it went over here for a buy. And the 20th, it lost over here for a sell. This actually, it should be two out of the three. Oh no, this is for 7:02. That's why my bad. 7:02. The statistics over here are for the 7:02 entry. So this is right. It only won one out of the three recent entries at 7:01. I'm looking for a 7:02 entry though, so we'll use this as a confluence 7:01, but I'm going to actually try to get into the 7:02. The 7:02 has an 86.67 probability weighted, 73.33 overall probability, 100% probability for buys, 55% probability for sells, and it won two out of the three recent entries at 7:02. So here are the statistics. You can see them right here at on my reports. So the buys look good here if they come up. That's a big if. So we'll see. Yeah, so Masij actually did the data over that. And we talked about this last night with Masij. So the good thing with Masij did a pretty deep back test on like the probabilities. The probabilities that Masij came up was a 41% probability win rate over I think a year period. The thing with that is that that's the foundational like that's foundational win rate. So like if you start off at 41%, you still have an edge of 11%, right? Then on top of that, you put another layer of filters. Layer of filters, there would be choppy markets. It would also be so one choppy market. That's one of the biggest things. The second thing is news, right? Um, so once you put like those filters on top, you start at a 41% probability and it goes up higher because then you're going to skip trades that are going to be in a choppy market and you're going to skip trades that are going to be around high impact news events. I'm not sure exactly what time did you get that percentage from, Asij, but that's kind of where you want to base it off of, right? You want to base it off first initially a flat foundational probability to show you that there's edge, right? Because whenever you're applying a strategy, guys, you want there to be edge. If there's no edge, you're kind of just spinning your wheels. I talked about this with someone over the weekend too. There's someone who messaged me over the weekend. They mentioned that they've been trading for 5 years and they haven't found profitability. And the thing is, they keep bouncing from strategy to strategy, or they have a strategy and then when it stops working, they could change it completely. Essentially, just going to a brand new strategy. So whenever you guys are trying to put a strategy together, make sure that there's an edge there, without any confluences, like with just one requirement. Like for example, if you're trading support and resistance, just create an edge or identify an edge that's there with no other criteria. And then once you know that it's profitable, then you can add other criteria on top of it. Add the trend if you really want to, add a different multiple time frame if you want to, any of that stuff. But if you don't find an edge on just one basic criteria, then that strategy should probably be scrapped because it's not a profitable strategy. So that's just something that you guys want to keep in mind when you guys are looking to identify this stuff. All right, so this entry right here at 701, guys, it is for a sell. If you guys are looking to take it, this isn't one of my target entries, but if you guys want to take it, it is going to be a sell. This 702 entry looks like it's not going to come up, unfortunately, because this here is going to be a buy. We would need a buy signal on this very candle right here because this is the only candle before the 702. And it's not looking like we're getting that buy signal here. If you guys want to take the 701, 701 is a sell. The probabilities aren't super, super high, but they are a 63.34% probability weighted. So that gives you a 13.34 point edge if you take this here for a sell. Again, like we talked about, guys, we're basing everything off the probabilities here. You're never going to be 100%, but if you do want to take certain entries, this entry right here is running for a sell at 701. The 702 is not going to come up. It was for a buy, and there's no buy signal here. So, like I mentioned before, guys, I'm selective with my entries, but you guys don't have to be selective, right? It's really up to you whether you want to be selective or not. For me, I'm trading live funds, guys, so it's a different game for me, right? For me, as a hedge fund manager, is really to protect capital, right? My goal here isn't to make risky trades. I'm not here to take risky trades. I'm here to take quality trades and protect capital and grow the accounts with high quality trades, of course, right? If you guys are trading prop accounts, that's fine, right? You can blow your prop account, no big deal. I can't be blowing client accounts. So it's different for me. It's a different game. So yeah, if you guys want to take the entries here, I mean, feel free. The short position did run right there for the 701. The 701 is still running right now. So this is a 701 entry. There's basically two entries running alongside each other. There's the 701 and there's a 702. However, the 702 here is for a buy. So obviously I'm not taking the entry there because it's for a sell. Both of them are for a sell. 701 and 702, both for sells right there. Hey, what's up, Apex? Apex is asking, hey, I'm the guy from Morning in Reddit. Did you code this indicator yourself? Yes, everything that I use here are my own tools and indicators that I coded myself. Hey, Sam, morning. Yeah, Sam said, beautiful buy, then sell momentum. Yeah, are you in the trade, Sam? All right, so like I mentioned before, guys, there's two entries here currently running alongside each other. There's a sell entry running right here at 701, and then another sell entry right here running at 702. I'm not in either of these entries right here because they just didn't meet my criteria, right? The 702 entry is the one that I was looking to maybe get into, but it was for a buy position, not for a sell. My preference of direction here was for a buy. Obviously didn't come up for a buy, so I'm not looking to get into that one right there. But there are two entries running alongside each other, 701 and 702. 701 is actually, so the 701 does meet the criteria for a sell. The 702 didn't because we were looking for a buy right there. And Rashida also mentioned I don't like it when we buy gaps on higher time frames, but in downtrend on lower. All right, let's take a look at the technicals real quick. So looking at the technicals over here, the 1 minute's currently bearish. You can see prices below the pivots, trend meters red, pivots are angling down. The 5 minute over here was bullish. It switched right back to bearish here. So it's kind of more of a mixed neutral bias. The 15 minute over here is actually bullish. So you can see over here prices above the pivots, trend meters green, pivots are angling up. 30 minutes bullish, 1 hour is bullish, and the 4 hour here is bearish neutral. So it's pretty mixed. You guys can see here, it's not really one-sided at all. So if you guys are looking to take trades based on technical analysis over here, it's kind of, I mean, it's all over the place, right? 1 minute here is bearish, 5 minute here is bearish, 15 minutes bullish, 30 minutes bullish, 1 hour is bullish, and the 4 hour here is bearish neutral. So it's pretty mixed across the board with regard to the overall direction of trend. Again, if you guys like trading technicals, that's perfectly fine. That's a style of trading. For me personally, I don't trade technicals. I like to go off the numbers specifically. I mean, I've traded technicals for years, so it's not like this is new to me, or it's not something that I'm unfamiliar with. But just looking at the technicals so far, there's not really much of a bias. So we do have structure over here, which was drawn up from earlier. Let's see if I could draw this lower structure over here. And then this down here, of course. All right, so we got some support levels right here. Price is currently holding support from down here. And again, if you guys are using technicals, I mean, this would be a good area to see a possible bounce, right? So price here respected these technicals pretty nicely. I actually drew these, so I drew these levels over here before price came down to this point, and price pretty much respected these pretty nicely. Price came below, faked out, came back lower, and now it's sitting at these support levels. These support levels have been drawn up from over here. So the structure that was happening over here pre-market during London session. So price right here is actually respecting these support levels right now. So what you could possibly see here is a correction back up. There's two things that may happen here. So if you're looking at technicals, you're either going to see price sit here. That's one scenario, right? Sit in between this area, in this area. The second scenario is price probably breaking above here and pushing up higher, or vice versa going the other way. There's three scenarios there. You don't really want to have three scenarios. You want basically two. So ideally here, what I'd like to see is either price hold this support level, or the other scenario is break above and correct back to the upside, right? You kind of want to, like when you're analyzing the market, you want to have some sort of bias, you want to have some sort of direction. The reason why I'm looking for price to push up is because my entries over here, or actually, I guess it doesn't really matter because these entries over here are going to be for a sell. I'm not taking these, but if you are looking to take these lower probability entries, they're going to be for a sell. So I think for me personally, I'd rather have price kind of just sit around this area, maybe fake out below and then come back above. My entry is going to be later at 53. So we have about like 50 minutes until my actual entry comes up down here. So I think ideally maybe push down below here, fake out, climb back up into the range, and then climb up higher later. It's basically a head and shoulders pattern right here. All right, here, let me forecast the head and shoulders. Where's the head and shoulders at? There we go. So something like that, right? So consolidation, fake out, consolidation, correction back up. Because my entry is not until 7:53, so I got a lot of time for price to push up here, or 7:56 actually. So the sells could be fine, and you can see over here the trade's still running. So these trades over here at 7:01 and 7:02 are still currently running right now. And they're taking a while to push down, but they are still running. See, ideally, I wouldn't really want to be holding on to something like this where price is kind of taking forever to hit. Typically, these scalps, you want them to hit within the first couple minutes. When price starts to go flat like this isn't a good sign because at this point, price can really go in either direction. And you got to remember your stop loss is super tight, right? A 20-point stop loss. You don't want to be holding on to this for too long because eventually, price can really flip the other way. All right, let's see what we got over here. Yeah, Jonathan mentioned that price is sitting at the VWAP. Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. So it's sitting at the VWAP looking for where it wants to go next. So I'm gonna take off the 702 one. The 701 is still currently running. I'm not in this position, but like I mentioned, you don't want to be sitting in a trade where price is going sideways. We're trading momentum, guys. So if there's no momentum there, you don't really want to be in the position because price can easily push either direction after. Like this trade's been running for how long now? 10, 12 minutes. So I'm not in anything here, guys. Again, reminder, I'm not in any positions. I haven't taken anything this week yet. Um, the past 2 weeks have been really choppy compared to October, right? The past 2 weeks have been, or not past 2 weeks, but I guess this week and last week have been like very, very choppy like this, where we have, and what I mean by choppy is we have this right here where price will kind of push up, it'll retrace back, and it'll kind of just range within that area. In comparison to like October, in October, we had a lot of directional push, right? Price kind of pushed up, climbed up higher, price pushed down. We had price pushed down lower. For today, though, it's just price isn't going anywhere. Like we talked about earlier. Here, let me try to clean this up a little bit. So let's just go back to this is the chart from today. Like I mentioned, this is kind of where price is balanced right here down the middle, right? So basically, if this is where price is balanced, whenever price pushes out of this area, so for example, when price pushes up here, not all the way up here, but like around this area, when price pushes around this area over here, and down here, price becomes imbalanced, right? So when it's imbalanced like that, price wants to go back to this middle point. And that's exactly where price is going right now. So whenever you see price push out of this area, you want to be careful because this is an area of manipulation, of course, in a sense. We say manipulation very lightly. It's not really being manipulated. It's just price is outside the area and it's balancing back to the middle point. The middle point is really just going to be down here. So we say manipulation, but it's not really being manipulated. It's just price gets pushed down out of the balanced area and then it pulls back into that area there in the middle. We don't really want to trade when this is happening, right? We actually don't want price to be balanced. We want price to be imbalanced. Because if price is imbalanced, we have a direction for price to correct back up to. So yeah, Sam said he took one sell trade when waiting for price to come to his level. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, Rashida said the current 4 hour low is at the previous 4 hour low. And this could be a push up. Yeah. I mean, so what I was looking at over here is that was kind of what I was aiming for as well, right? Because we had price kind of sitting right here at this support level. These support levels were identified earlier during London session. So basically on market open, we had a big bullish push because of the news over the weekend. Then price came back down for correction. And then now it's balancing. So this is what I like to see here. See how price is now balanced? So we had this balancing area right here down the middle, right? Now that price is balanced, we might see price actually move out of this area and continue pushing out of this area, right? So we'll just put the storyline together. Price was balanced right here. Market opened up, pushed up because of the government shutdown news, and it came back down for correction, and then now it's balanced again. Now that it's balanced right here, and this is a big maybe. So now that price is balanced right here, the move following this could be the actual direction of price for the day, right? Now that price is kind of sitting right here down the middle. Now if price decides to push up and go higher, then okay, great, that might be the direction for the day. Or if price decides to push below and drop lower, then that might be the direction for the day. A big might. There's no guarantee that's going to happen, but now that price is balanced around this area, we can kind of see where price is likely to push after because now that price is where it should be. Wherever it pushes from this area is likely where it's supposed to go following this initial push up and push down. The only problem here that I can kind of see, which might be affecting, is any updates regarding the government shutdown news, right? So let's see any other breaking news here. It says flight disruptions from shutdown worsen. Delta United offer to pay extra to crew flights. So see how we have breaking news here? A lot of this stuff is all tied to the government shutdown, right? Like the flight disruptions, the economic news, the jobs data, inflation news, all that stuff, everything's tied to the government shutdown. So if we get another breaking news event that the Senate passes, whatever to reopen the government, then you might see another bullish push to the upside. This is why you have to pay attention to the news that happens in the background. You can't just base everything off the probabilities by itself because there's other things in the market that could affect, where price is going to go. Like you can have 100% probability in a sense that price is going to go up from this point here. But or for example, to the sell side, like you can have as much probability on your side that you want, but if the news comes out that the government shutdown is over, I could almost guarantee price is going to push up at least for a little bit, right? So this is why I keep trying to explain that you could have the probabilities, but the probability is just your foundation. Like going back to here, the criteria, I'm gonna take this off. I don't want you guys to think I'm in it, but looking at the numbers right here, these probabilities here are just the foundational aspect of the entry, right? You have a foundation to build off of, but if you have other factors pushing price away from where it's currently at, this stuff here, it matters in a sense, but it's not always going to go where it's supposed to go, right? You might have some manipulation that happens first, and then price may push in that direction after. Like for example, 628 right here, right? Say at 628, and this is, by looking at this is really going to be using, I like to say common sense, but for the most part, a lot of people don't have common sense to kind of put the two and two together. But like, for example, here at 628, we have a probability that price is going to push to the downside, right? We have a 63.34 probability that's going to come to the downside. Just because you have a probability that price is going to come down, say, for example, at 7:25 or 26, say there's a high impact news event, right? Or if there's an update with regard to the government shutdown. Even though we're looking to take a sell here, if I see news like that come out right before, I'm not going to take a sell because it's probably going to spike up maybe for a few seconds or a few minutes, and then it's going to come right back down to balance, right? So if you see an imbalance, price will typically come back down to where it's supposed to go. So you have to use outside factors in a sense to kind of dictate whether you want to take the position or not. Like the news isn't going to dictate whether I take a buy or a sell, right? I already have my direction here. What dictates whether I take the entry is the news. So like for example, the 630 entry over here, the entry was for a sell. If the news was positive, that's not going to flip my position back to a buy, right? I would take it for a sell still. But because there was news or whatever, I would have just skipped the trade versus get into it. So just stuff to keep in mind, guys, when you guys are looking for entries. Um, just another reminder, these entries here, I set these up the night prior. So the night prior, I already know which direction I want to take. I already know my probabilities. But when it comes down to actually taking the entry, when it comes down to the time, like for example, here at 650, 756, I already have my direction in place. If the trade's for a buy, great, I might take it. If I don't take it, it's going to be based off the factors that are leading up to this specific entry time. Like for example, right now, there's no scheduled news for 756, right? Let's go over here. There's no scheduled news for 756, but say for example, price gets to 756, which is going to be right here. Say we get down to this point, and then at 754, we have some sort of breaking news. In that situation, I might skip the entry, even though it's like lining up for a buy. Another thing that might happen here is what if price starts to flatten out? See how price here is flattening out? What I would need to see here for me to take this entry is if price remains flat, I need it to be at a low point and I need it to start climbing up. Situation like this, great, I'll take the entry. But the other factor where I won't take this entry is if price is going back and forth like this, and then say we get closer to 756 and price just starts to go really flat like this. In this situation, I'm not going to take the trade, right? Because this goes back to what I mentioned earlier. When markets consolidating like that, there's no point in taking the entry because we're trading based off the probabilities here, right? The probabilities that price is going to move in that direction. So yeah, I mean, I could go on and on with my reasoning behind the entries, but it just depends on like what the market's giving me at that very specific time. Let's see, Jonathan said it's looking good for MPS V2. Yeah, possibly like right here, for example, if it's coming down. I mean, obviously this one here wouldn't have been taken because there's a momentum signal on it. But yeah, for a sell here, actually, for MPS V2 could be good. So we got a sell signal here, price is pushing down. Retracement continuation. So the pattern that I talked about earlier, guys, it looks like it's starting to play out. That head and shoulders that I mentioned earlier. So we got the shoulder right here, possibly a head. I mean, it's kind of messy. Let me see. I'm gonna start it from up here. So we had the show. Let me kind of zoom out a little bit. You guys remember what I talked about earlier with the head and shoulders? It looks like it's starting to set up a little bit. So we'll start from, I mean, obviously this point up here, shoulder, head. Yeah, so there goes the head and shoulder that we were talking about earlier, which makes sense. I mean, if price continues to go back and forth, so this could be a possible MPS V2 if this candle closes red. I mean, obviously I wouldn't take it, but if you're looking for that MPS V2 right there. All right, we're still waiting here. The first entry that's coming up is at 728. I'm not taking that 728 entry, but here, let me just put it up for you guys. It's with momentum. Yeah, the weighted probability at the 728 entry, it's not quite at 65, almost there, but not quite. Let's see. Sam said he's looking for sells at the moment. 1 hour candle is very bearish for him. And Sam says, I agree. Both NQ and YM have become news based, making technicals waste. Yeah, I agree with you 100%, Sam. It's tough to like trade just off the technicals, right? Because there's a lot of factors that factor into the market. Like you could be looking for some sort of bias, but if there's a news event that comes out right before, that can heavily impact, obviously the direction of the trade. But then again, it just depends on the person. So the person applying the strategy, if you believe in the strategy and you know it has a true edge, then so be it. Still take the entry. There's no need to there is no need to I got some connection loss, right? Oh, let me check my Ninja. Yeah, I'm gonna have to reconnect all these accounts again. Okay. All right, well, I got some time right now, so I gotta go and disconnect and reconnect all my accounts again, unfortunately. Um, let me do that real quick. I'm gonna log out and just log back in. It's easier that way. This Ninja Trader issue is getting a little old with the disconnects. So let's see. All right, I'm going back to the charts over here, guys. So looking at 728, the inch right here has a weighted probability of 63.34, overall probability of 60%, buy probability of 55.56, sell probability of 66.67. It won two out of the three recent entries, and the direction for today is going to be a sell, of course. So if you guys are looking to take this, what you would want to see here is price establish or hit some sort of high point and then possibly a correction back down. If that doesn't come up, that's fine. You have entries following up later at 740, 741. If you want to take the buy here, so like I mentioned, you don't have to take the sell, right? Yeah, you don't have to take the sell. So with this being the case for a buy, if you want to take the buy, I'll do the math here. So 60 for overall plus 55.56 divided by 200. You have a weighted probability of 57.78. So it's not going to be horrible. I mean, you still have a 7 point edge here if you want to take the buy. But from my calculations here, I would personally be looking for a sell here for 728 if you guys are looking to take it. So we'll uh we'll see what happens here shortly. Now, let's see. Sam says have different criteria for MPS V2. Applying your concept a little differently. 15.18 was his sell. Okay, yeah, no, definitely, Sam. There's a ton of ways to apply it. Small variations aren't going to make a huge difference. So I'm assuming yours was kind of in line with what we were looking for, anyways. But yeah, so Sam over here actually took it at fifth at 18 mark. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I know what you were looking for right here. So you saw the sell signal and it confirmed that it was bearish, right? That's why you took the sell right there, Sam. I think that's what you were looking for. I've used that before too. Like, for example, if you have a buy signal and it closes above the momentum, then typically you could ride that up for at least a few points. And I think you kind of probably did the same thing there too. There's a ton of different ways to apply it. All right, so we have a pending sell signal right here, guys. If the sell signal closes, then the 728 entry is going to be valid. For those of you who want to take it, it's not the highest probability, but it still would be valid with regard to entry there. So let me reconnect my NinjaTrader accounts real quick. You guys are gonna hear the beeping in the background because my Ninja's gonna be connecting. I'm really hoping the government shutdown is gonna end pretty soon because the news is really throwing off the market a lot because of, I mean, nobody knows what's going on, of course. For me personally, I feel like this has all been baked into the market, honestly. I feel like this is all planned. I feel like there was a government shutdown and then everyone's scared about flights being canceled for the holidays. And it just causes a lot of fear in the market, right? Now that we're getting closer to the holidays, I think the government shutdown is going to end before Thanksgiving for sure. Because this is going to be really hard for people who are looking to travel for the holidays. And I feel like this is all planned. It's crazy. Like, so people always talk about how like the government is kind of like it's kind of like they do things on purpose, right? To kind of manipulate the market in general and just manipulate a lot of manipulation in general, not just with trading, but just in general in the world, right? There's always like wars going on behind the scenes. There's always different agendas that are getting pushed. There's always stuff that's happening that like people don't really realize. And I think the same thing happened with the government shutdown. Personally, I think this is all a circus, to be honest. I feel like this was all planned. What a coincidence that the government shutdown is going to be coming to an end as we get closer to the holidays because all of the airports are getting shut down. Like it's it's crazy. I mean, like for me, I don't really follow the news. I only follow the news because it affects the market, of course. But after trading for so many years and watching the news and seeing how market reacts to the news and seeing how people react to the news, I feel like everything here is kind of like all planned out. It's like literally everything is planned out. I feel like COVID was kind of planned out too, in a sense. Like as kind of messed up as it sounds, it's like I feel like COVID was planned out for the government, right? Not by the government, but like the world in general. I feel like people, it's crazy. It's I feel like the market crashes were all kind of planned out. I feel like this everything that happens, there's some sort of like agenda that's getting pushed. I don't believe in like conspiracy theories, but it's crazy how a lot of this stuff happens. Like I don't think anything's a coincidence, really. Yeah, Michael says diabolical, not random. Yeah. People sound kind of crazy sometimes when they talk about conspiracy theories, but then you think about it and you're like, wow, this stuff actually, it's kind of crazy how like everything pans out. Cern said, yeah, Barack said I've been saying that forever. Yeah, like, like the whole war, like, so if you think about like the war in Iraq, right, a long time ago here in the US, there was like, obviously there was an agenda behind it, right? There's an agenda behind that. I feel like the war in Gaza and Israel, I feel like there's an agenda behind that. Not to be a conspiracy theorist, but I just feel like a lot of this stuff there's different agendas that are getting pushed with regards to the stuff that's happening. I feel like with the government shutdown, like Trump wanted to lay off a ton of employees. If you think about here, let me see how many people were laid off. How many government employees laid off because of government shutdown? Yeah, so like I can't even see it. I was gonna show you guys, but if you guys want to like look it up yourself, like I feel like a lot of this stuff was kind of planned out because, obviously we need to trim the government, right? We need to trim the government. We're in like such a crazy debt, like $1 trillion debt here in the US. And in order for us to get out of that debt, they have to lay off a bunch of people or get rid of a bunch of people that are working government jobs. And the only way to do that is to cause some sort of chaos or fear in the market, right? You can't just lay people off. Then they'll go against the government. Um, I feel like all this was kind of planned by Trump and the Trump administration, like to be able to trim a lot of the expenses here that we're having. Like if you think about it, so if you think about like how much money the government is saving right now by not paying government employees, it's crazy. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. Uh, and the government being shut down for a whole month. Like you guys got to think about that. A whole month of no paychecks going to government employees. That's like millions, if not billions. It's a lot of money being saved, basically. And then all of a sudden, government's going to reopen, and then we'll see what goes from there. Stern said he lost all of his connections again on NinjaTrader. Yeah, same here. So I had to reconnect all of them. But all right, guys, we're getting closer to my entry for the day. My entry is going to be it's still a little far off. Let's see. We have the next one here at 740. So we'll see if the entry over here comes up at 740. This is going to be the first one coming up closer to our entry point. I'm going to step away for 1 second, guys, and then I will be right back. All right, guys, had to get some water real quick. Let's see. CJ said it's not a conspiracy if it's true. LOL. Yeah. Yeah, if you guys, I mean, like I mentioned, if you guys are interested in kind of, you're just looking at it from an outside to inside perspective, right? Just look at how things happen in the world, and just see how the world reacts to it and the market reacts to it and stuff like that. For me personally, I don't like following the news at all, but I only follow news because it affects the market, right? Like the government shutdown. Typically, I wouldn't really care about the government shutdown at all because I don't work a government job, and like that stuff just doesn't affect me directly. But because it affects the market, that's why we kind of look at it, of course. Like this right here, right? Here's another thing too, like the SNAP benefits. Like a lot of this stuff is like, it's crazy because like I feel like this stuff. So with SNAP benefits, I feel like because this is happening, this is causing a lot of like low income people to follow like this specific news event, right? But I feel like there's other stuff happening behind, like not behind the scenes, but there's other stuff that's happening around the world that this is more of a distraction, right? Like if low income people are focused on SNAP benefits, and if everybody's focused on like on this right now, then it kind of takes a lot of like focus away from other things that are happening. Like I talked about like the wars that are happening around the world, right? A lot of people forgot about like the Ukraine and Russia war. That stuff's still going on. People in Ukraine are dying every day, like a ton of people, but people are acting like it's not even happening anymore. Same with Israel and Gaza, right? I don't know if the ceasefire is still going on, but I'm sure people are dying every day there. Um, there's just a lot of things like there's focus in different areas, right? With regard to the wars going on, with SNAP benefits, with government shutdown, with flights, everybody's focus is kind of somewhere else. And there's agreements and meetings happening that people aren't even paying attention to. Yeah, Masih said 1 out of 8 Americans are on SNAP. There are going to be big issues if it doesn't end soon. Yeah. So here's the thing. I feel like that's happening right now, Masih. And then all of a sudden, when it gets to that tipping point, there's going to be some sort of recourse, right? Like I feel like a lot of people are going to be worried and scared about the SNAP benefits, and then all of a sudden, once it gets to that point where there's going to be a revolt or whatever, some or protest and stuff like that, then all of a sudden, SNAP benefits come back. It it's crazy, right? Like don't quote me on it, but we'll see. I think once things get really really bad to a point where people are just going to start to act on it, then all of a sudden the SNAP benefits are going to come back, government shutdown is going to end, and Trump's going to be the best president ever, right? I feel like that's going to be like the thing there. I feel like with Trump, it's kind of interesting because when Trump and his administration, they let things get really bad, and then once things get really bad, they everything just kind of gets passed, and then they become heroes in a sense. It's uh it's crazy. Yeah, lots of the financial system is due for a big reset. Crypto is going to take over. Trump is building the infrastructure now. All the rest is distraction, so people don't pay attention to the new big changes that are coming. Yeah, I agree. I agree with you 100%. All right, guys. So looking at the entry over here at 740, let's see. So 740, this is going to be an entry over here for itself. If you guys want to take it, the probabilities here, this was actually a really close one, right? The weighted probability was 64.17. It's just a few points away, or just basically 1 point away from being 65. It has an overall probability of 53.33, buy probability of 45.45, and a sell probability of 75%. It won 2 out of the 3 recent sell entries right here. So this over here is going to, I mean, obviously it's going to be a sell if you guys want to take it. I was kind of tempted to maybe take this position, but I didn't want to go against my criteria, right? It doesn't meet the 65, so obviously it doesn't meet the criteria to be a target entry. But if you guys want to take it, the probabilities are pretty close in a sense. Yeah, Masih said if there's a protest, Trump just posting an AI video of him shitting on protesters. Our actual president posted that online. It's crazy, right? I mean, it is really crazy that AI and Trump's using AI to his advantage and stuff like that. Because the thing with AI, guys, is you never know what's real and what's not anymore. Because AI is so realistic. It's crazy. Let me scroll up real quick. So Nasish said, do you base direction off the win rate on the side or recent performance of long and short positions? Um, so I base the direction based off the weighted probability, Nasish. So I'll do the overall plus whatever's higher, usually. Because typically, if you do one or the other, I mean, it's going to be one or the other, right? One is usually going to be higher than the other. So I go for whichever has the highest. So that's typically where I kind of weigh it towards. All right, so if you guys are looking to get into this entry at 740, this is going to be with momentum. It's going to be a sell entry. It has, again, a weighted probability of 64.17. This doesn't meet my criteria of over 65%, so I'm not looking to take it. I'm sticking to my trading plan. Obviously, my trading plan is to only take trades that have above a 65% probability weighted. This one here doesn't meet that criteria by about a point. So I'm going to skip out on it. But if you guys want to take it, it is currently running now as we speak. So there we go. It's trades running. We'll follow it, but I'm not in the position here, of course. Ark said at the open, you said buy if it's a sell signal, then sell if it's a buy. Yeah, it's because it's against Ark, right? So if it's against, you're going against the momentum. That's why I'm saying if like the momentum came up, you would go against it. The momentum there was for a buy, so it was actually a sell. If it was a sell, it'd be opposite. It would be a buy, right? Because it's against momentum. If it's with momentum, then you're going with the direction of momentum. But if it's against, you're going opposite of what's there. So that's why it was a sell entry for open. All right. So I'm not in this position right here, guys. So again, this just goes back to what I was talking about. I pretty much talk about this every day, guys. You know, the real skill with trading is not necessarily taking entries, because you can take any entry and you can get lucky, right? There's a ton of ways to get lucky trading. The real skill of trading is understanding when not to take a trade. For me here, this doesn't meet my criteria, so obviously I didn't take it. Um, and it's probably a good decision because price here is now in drawdown, right? I'm gonna take this off. I don't want you guys to think I'm in the position. So the one that I'm actually looking to take is going to be at 756. We're almost there. So again, we just got to wait a few more moments for price to get to that point, and then we'll look for possible entry there as we get closer to 756. It's going to be against momentum. So right here at 740, there's 2 entries that are running alongside it. So there's one right here at 740, and there's one right next to it again at 741. Neither is one that I would have wanted to take. Looks like both of them right here would have been very tricky. They didn't meet my criteria, so obviously I didn't want to take it. But the 741 one is still technically running right now. So we talked about this before too, guys. Like, once you understand that the trades are going to go into drawdown periods, that's perfectly fine, right? Because you understand that the trade's not always going to be 100%. I feel like with a lot of people, they can't handle a drawdown period. For me, I'm one of those people. I don't really like going into drawdown periods. So like when I do go into drawdown, it starts to like make me second think a strategy or a type of entry. That's why for me, I prefer to just not take the trade, right? This goes back to what we were talking about earlier. You can take pretty much every entry that comes up, but then you have to accept that it's going to go into drawdown because you're taking more entries, right? The more entries you take, the more risk you take on. For me, I'm very selective with my entries, so I don't really go into drawdown periods very often. A lot of times I'm okay with skipping an entry because I'd rather skip it and not lose it than take the trade, eat the loss, and then keep eating losses, of course, until the wins come back. Because eventually the drawdown period is going to end, right? If you look over here, let's just take a look at so this is the entry at 756. You can see that it does go through drawdown periods sometimes, not very much, but it does go through drawdown periods. Like for example, here, this went through a three trade drawdown period, right? From the 20th up until the 22nd. And then from the 22nd, it had a huge win, not a huge win, but a win streak right here from the 22nd up until the 27th. Because you're doing a 1 to 2 risk to reward, yeah, you'll eat losses here, but once you have wins right here, you're going to recoup all of those losses. Same with this right here again, right? From 720 or the 27th up until the 29th. Couple drawdown periods right here. There's two back-to-back losses, then a win right here on the 30th. This would have brought this back into profit, if not break even. And then right here from 30 to November 1st, they had a couple losses, 30 or 31 November 1st, two losses. And then from there, it had a win streak from November 1st up until November 7th, right? All these back-to-back wins. So you just got to understand that like when you guys are taking these entries, there's going to be drawdown periods. You can either eat into the drawdown and just take the losses, or you can wait and skip a trade here and there, but avoid losses when possible. And that's kind of what I'm doing, right? For the most part, that's literally what I'm doing. I'm trying to avoid as many losses as possible, and I'm trying to capitalize on the wins here. But either way, if you guys are eating the losses, you should be able to bounce back from it if you take every single entry that comes up. And so you got to choose whether you want to be the person who takes every entry or the person who's selective and only takes a certain amount of entries. You can be the person that takes every single entry that's listed, or you can be the person who only takes the target entries that are in green, right? There's a lot of different ways to take these entries. You either take all of them, take only the target entries, or you take all the target entries and then only select the few that meet the criteria with regard to market conditions. So, I mean, there's different ways of doing it. It's just, and all these ways could end you up in profitability. It's just you have to stick to one of them. Like you can't have 1 week where you take every single trade and then 1 week where you only take a few trades, right? You're never going to have consistency that way. Let's see. CJ said the 741 has to push through 2 sessions to get to TP, so it'd be a no-go for me. Also, it's against the MPFV2, MF2 market flow. Yeah, exactly. So let's go back to our main chart here. Okay, so there's a little more structure here that's kind of been, I guess, produced in a sense. So we have a support level right here. I'm looking at the higher time frames. That's where I can see the support level. So we got a couple support levels right here. We have a couple imbalances, or there's like one main one right here, I guess. There's actually another imbalance right here. Price is actually bouncing off at the moment. All right, so we got price kind of just sitting right here right now. I actually want price to stay down here. So I want price to stay down here because our entry at 756 is going to be for a buy. And if it sits flat right here, then we'd be in perfect area here for it to climb right back up. So probably I bounce off the support, bounce off the sessions right here. invalidate this imbalance and push up higher. So I actually like where it's at right now. Our entry is going to come up in a few minutes. So I'd like to actually sit here for the next 5 minutes or so. Sit down here and then correction back up at 756. So our previous entries from last week, they were at 750, 55, like right before it. So there wasn't anything here on the previous day, but yeah, we had the entry right here at 755 prior. So it looks like it kind of just shifted over a little bit. So it went from 755 to 756 actually. Because last week we had a lot of entries here at 755. That was our target entry. So yeah, it looks like it shifted over a little bit. All right, that's what I'm waiting for. Waiting for this here. So price flips back up. So as you guys can see right here, we're waiting for this here to sit down below. And correct back up to the balance price. This is the balance right here. So the balance is right here down the middle. Right, price is currently imbalanced, but this is where price would likely want to come back to in order for it to balance out. Ninja Trader, dude. Ninja Trader just disconnected off everything again. God, Ninja Trader's pissed me off. All right, let me log back into my Ninja again. It just disconnected from every account, or not every account, but I guess for a majority of the accounts. All right, I got a few minutes here. I kind of like that. So Ninja Trader here is like an application that we use, but with StoneX, it's all in the cloud. So it's so even if there was a disconnect, they would still have the platform running on the cloud. Right, you guys are gonna hear this in the background. I'm logging. This is like my fourth or fifth time logging back into all of the Ninja Trader accounts today because of the account disconnects. Price is dumping past those levels that we talked about. So if this is the case, I don't know if that 56 entry is gonna hold, which is not a horrible thing. Okay. Got all the accounts logged in. Let's see. All right, so again, like we talked about, guys, I would like price to kind of flatten out where it's currently at right now. I'd like to kind of sit down here, or it doesn't have to sit down here. I'd like there to be some sort of floor established, and then I'd like it to start to climb back up, of course. But we'll see. Sam said, he's responding to a lot. He said, is that a hot insider tip since you were Ivanka's wedding photographer? I see heard the market movers fund managers conversation. Yeah, Lod's our insider here. He knows what's going on. He's got the he's got that inside connection with the Trumps. All right, guys. So looking at current price right now, we got price flattening out, or sort of flattening out. We have the position here coming up shortly in about a few minutes. Um, yeah, Barack said I'd be very irritated with NinjaTrader if it kept doing that to me. It sucks, and it's not even my accounts. I know it's it's like I mean the thing is if it was just prop accounts, I wouldn't care too much about it, right? But I'm trading live accounts, so it's different. Um, yeah, if these are just like Apex accounts or whatever, perfectly fine. I wouldn't really care because if there's an account error or disconnect or whatever, I get that sorted out, but not when you're trading live accounts, of course. All right, so let's see what happens here, guys. Um, so let's see. Yeah, Masij say we can't have this buy signal close. There's a pending buy signal on this candle right here. So what I would see here possibly is if price comes up from where it's currently at, possibly a correction back up here. Oh my gosh, I'm having connection issue. You guys can see my trading view here is kind of blanked out. I feel like my Ninja is going to disconnect again. If it does, I just can't take the trade. It's so that connection right there, that was my internet connection issue. That wasn't a NinjaTrader problem. Uh, and there we go. You guys heard that in the background. It disconnected again from my accounts. Okay, unfortunately, guys, I think I might have to sit out of this position for me personally. Not because I want to skip out on it, it's because of my NinjaTrader disconnecting. I don't want to get into the position and then I get disconnected, and then I can't control the position once I'm in it. So if you guys want to take this position right here, guys, this is going to be a buy. This is the 756 entry. Um, yeah, unfortunately, I'm gonna have to sit out of this one, guys. Depending on how this candle here closes, I would kind of base the entry based on that. So right here, I would like this candle to actually close green. So I want it to push up a little bit and then close green for me to want to take the entry. The reason why I'm saying that is because I don't want to be caught in going against momentum, right? So if this here pushes up and it closes green, I would I would say like, okay, that this might be a good entry. Again, like I said, I'm not taking it because my Ninja's having issues, but the trade here is running at 756. So 756 right here, long position. I'll follow it for you guys. Not in it, but it's looking good so far. Yeah, it's looking good so far. All right, I'll follow with you guys here. Again, unfortunately, I had to sit out of this because of my Ninja. There's just too many disconnects in one day. I think I had 6 or 7 disconnects today. And I'm not going to take that risk with my hedge fund client accounts. It's not worth the risk for me. Like I'm okay with skipping one day here, then to take it and then have connection issues once I'm in the position. So yeah, Brock said not taking done for the day. Plus, it looks like the Bears aren't done following from outside too. Yeah, so I'll follow with you guys here. If you guys have any questions, feel free to hop into the chat. Again, like I said, I wanted to take this entry here, but I decided not to take it because of my internet connection issues with the Ninja. Plus, I mentioned I wanted this candle here to close green, right? I said in order for me to take this, I need this here to close green because I don't want to go against momentum here. Probably a good decision I skipped it, and a good decision why I decided not to take it unless it closed green, because it looks like this here might pull back quite a bit. So dodged a bullet there again. Not to say that this isn't going to hit. Obviously, I would still like this to hit. Like I would never want to fade my own trades, right? My analysis here pointed for a buy. I just think that because of this candle here did not close green, it's really hard going against momentum here, right? Like I mentioned, when we take these trades, I like to go with momentum. The trades that are against, I typically don't like to take these as much. They do hit, but I don't like going against momentum because momentum has been pushing down for a while. And like what Brock said here, he doesn't think the sells are done yet. And same with Sam too. Sam said sell bias being the king today. I agree. Because there were so many areas for price to bounce here, right? So there's so many areas for price to flip back up. Like for example, price got to the support level, it could have flipped back up from there. Price came down lower to this point and could have flipped back down there as well. Yeah, Rev said, yeah, not a fan of going against. I agree. CJ said, I feel like price is going to hell and it's taking Ninja Trader with it. Yeah, it's still coming down right now. So I think so for me personally, if you wanted to get my perspective on like why the market here is coming down, I think it's mainly because of the government shutdown news personally. Obviously the government shutdown news. When people saw this news happen over the weekend, this was good news for a lot of people, right? So like what happens with this is a lot of people start to buy, right? The thing is you don't want to go with where the majority is going. You want to trade contrarian. So for example, if everybody thinks market's going to go up because the government shutdown is coming to an end, then you obviously want to probably go the opposite for the buy side. So you might get a temporary push up and then a long-term push to the downside. But all right, guys, back to the charts over here. Like I said, I took no trades today, unfortunately. Fortunately, but unfortunately. So this trade over here, good thing we skipped out on it because it looks like it would have lost. Um, it was just one loss for that trade too. So if you look over here at the statistics for the 756 entry, like I said, the trades are never going to be 100%. But if you look at the data over here, this trade's been on a win streak for a while now. So from November 1st up until November 7th, basically for the past week or two, this specific entry at 756 has been on a pretty hot win streak. It's won one, two, three, four, five entries back to back, and then one loss for today. So if you were to take this trade today, or if you took this trade every day, it would be at a 10R, and then this loss would have put it at a 9R. So this entry is a good entry. It's just, there's no 100% probability that it's gonna hit. But this here has been hitting for the past 7 days. Right here from November 1st up until November 7th. Continuous win streak. So unfortunately, it looks like or fortunately, but unfortunately, looks like I didn't take any trades for the day, but looks like I avoided a lot of bad entries for Monday. As you guys know, typically Mondays and Fridays are those days that have higher manipulation. Monday because people are re-entering the market from the weekend, Friday because people are exiting the market from the weekend. Um, and if you look at my statistics here, so let's go back to my statistics. I usually don't take trades on Mondays anyways. So historically here, if you look at October, I didn't take any trades here on Mondays usually. I took a trade on the 29th, which was one, and I took a trade on the 6th here, but on the 13th, 20th, 27th, I haven't taken any trades on Monday. And then last week I didn't take a trade, or I took one trade on Monday. But typically I'm not taking trades on Mondays and Fridays usually because I don't really see much there. Let's see. Sam said, I see order books showing buyer stacking. Yeah, so it looks like what's happening here is they're trying to establish a support level, right? Which makes sense. I think a lot of people think this is an area for like support to be established. I mean, I probably wouldn't do that, but if that's what the majority of people are doing, I would say look at the opposite, right? Sam says that there's a lot of buyers stacking on the order book. I would say do the opposite because if the retailers are starting to buy because they think they're at support, then a lot of the institutions are going to do the opposite. They're going to push it down lower to stop them out, and then they're going to push price up later. So nice work, Sam. Yeah, Sam said he's done with 4 wins. PC said still targets lower. Let's go back real quick. So let's take a look at the higher time frames. Yes. So looking at this over here, there are opportunity for price to drop lower, right? There's still a support level down here. So price can still drop down lower, just like PC mentioned. There's still time and place here for price to continue dropping. So it's not completely done yet if it does drop any lower. But I think eventually once the buyers on the retail side start to slow down, I think the institutions are going to push price right back up. But we'll see. Yeah, Sam said Be short, buy impulse around here as per order book. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. But I'm done for the day, guys. If you guys have any questions, feel free to hop into the chat right now. Otherwise, this is a interesting start to the week, right? I think as the week progresses, we're going to have more updates with regard to the government shutdown coming to an end. I would say just pay it. I think so. For me personally, I think the government shutdown is going to end by Thursday, before Thursday. So either probably Wednesday or probably on Thursday. The reason why I say that is because I think a lot of these news events have to come out, right? There hasn't been jobs data in a month. So you think about that. Jobs data hasn't came out in a month. Inflation data hasn't came out in a month. This stuff has to come out eventually, or the market's going to go haywire, basically. So I do think there's going to be an update. We don't know when, we don't know where, but I think there's going to be an update pretty soon. Here, let's see. Let's go back to historical data. Go over here real quick. I was looking at Bitcoin. I know a lot of you guys are, or not, maybe not a lot of you guys, but a good amount of you guys are probably looking at Bitcoin. For me personally, I think if price drops below 100 and it holds below 100, I think this is going to be bad for Bitcoin. Well, not bad, but it's going to drop even lower. I think the blood isn't done yet. So again, if price comes below 100 over here, I think it's gonna, and I think this is gonna happen, honestly. I think by the end of the year, it's probably gonna go below 100. If it holds below 100 right here and it stays down there, I think it's gonna drop down. Not this little bit, yeah, maybe closer to like these support levels right here. I'm not trading Bitcoin. I already sold off all my Bitcoin, so I don't have a stake in this, but it's kind of what I'm looking for here. If that becomes the case. Um, but all right, yeah, what I was gonna look at was YM. So what I wanted to see was like how long did it take for COVID to recover, right? I think that's the biggest thing here. So 2020, see how this thing kind of dumped down? I just want to see the time period for how long it took for it to recover. Okay, a little over a month. So this is the most recent dump that we've had with regard to, I guess, current events and whatnot. It was about a 40-day period where, COVID happened, government kind of shut down for a little bit, and then it ended up correcting back up. We've been in this market right now currently. It hasn't really been that long, but the government shutdown started right here on like October 1st. So it's been like we're almost at that 40-day mark. Price didn't really dump heavily, but what I was trying to base this off was really like, okay, how long has the government kind of been shut down and how much longer until we have that correction back up? So that's why I'm thinking this week the government shutdown is going to end. It's probably going to end by Thursday so that they can release the inflation data and they can release the jobs data and stuff like that. But yeah, so COVID happened right here. It was about a 40-day shutdown. Not a shutdown, but for the most part, kind of, if you guys were around during COVID, you guys knew that the government was like partially shut down because nobody could go to work. So yeah, 40 days right there. And again, we're almost at that 40-day mark for the government shutdown here. So we'll see. Um, we'll see, and we'll be ready to act on the market once the market does start to move a little more consistently. Yeah, and a lot also mentioned also airports must return normal before Thanksgiving. I agree. So it's going to happen this week or next week. Thanksgiving is in like 2 weeks, guys. So I'm not expecting there to be, I'm not expecting there to be any problems once it comes down to the actual holidays. Yeah, Justice said, yeah, hard day for me today with two losses, but I think taking buys in general today was a red flag I'll look out for. Yeah, I agree. I think because of the news, I think price was manipulated to the upside. A lot of people thought price was going to go up, or price actually did the opposite and came down. Because typically, if you think about common sense, obviously, if the government shutdown is coming to an end, everybody's going to look to take buys, right? And because everybody's looking to take buys, the institutions are like, nope, we're going to push price down, stop everybody out. And that's literally what they did. Let's see, anything else here? Yeah, let's see. CJ said, What I like about Sam is he knows what kind of trader he is and doesn't project his fear onto others. He uses KT strats and analysis to confirm his style in trading. Yeah, I agree with that too. Sam is not just Sam in general, but like not just Sam, but people in general. Like you have to be your own trader, right? I can give you guys my analysis and I can give you guys my entries and I can give you guys my thought process on whether I decide to take an entry or not. But at the end of the day, you're your own trader, right? So you have to still form your style of trading, whether you want to take every entry or whether you want to take just selective entries. It's just really up to you. Um, Again, for me, I'm very conservative with my trading, so I'm very selective about which ones I decide to take, and that's been beneficial for me in the long run. Not everybody can sit on their hands like I do. Some people are just antsy and they want to take every single entry that comes up, which is not a problem, but you have to understand that that's the type of trader you are, and you have to trade that way to become or stay profitable long term. So, all right, guys, I think that's it for the day. Again, I didn't take any entries for today. Today's flat for me. I did have a couple entries here lined up. Let's just go over the entries again real quick. This is the opening entry. We had some market manipulation right here, obviously, when market opened up because of the government shutdown news. So obviously, I didn't look to take these two entries right here. Then at 641, these didn't come up. They actually came up for opposite direction, so I decided not to take those there. 702, this one here didn't come up as well. This was for a buy. I think it came up for a sell. Yeah, it's 702 entry over here came up for a sell. So obviously I decided not to take that. And then this one over here didn't come up, or it came up, but it didn't close how I wanted to. I said I wanted this candle here to close green for me to take it. And then on top of that, I had issues with NinjaTrader. So that's a quick rundown of the entries here for the day and why I decided not to take him or why I didn't take him at all. So, all right, guys, I think that's it. Yeah, CJ said exactly, Sean, from the beginning, you've always encouraged us to understand what kind of traders we are as individuals. Exactly. You know, I can show you guys all of my trades every single day and I could trade live for you guys, but it doesn't necessarily mean it fits with your type of trading style, right? So just keep that in mind, guys. I'm my own trader. You're your own trader. I can show you exactly what I'm doing and why I'm avoiding trades, but your thought process might be different, right? Just like with what Roosevelt was talking about earlier, like, he sees things differently, which is perfectly fine. If he wants to go based off the probabilities, and that's great. You can go straight direct off the probabilities, but you got to understand that you either got to be all in, or you got to be all out in a sense with depending on like what you guys are looking for. For me, I'm like halfway in, halfway out. I know that's like a bad way of looking at things, but for the most part, I do have my trades here set up, but I still use my discretion whether taking the entries or not. And today, this is one of those days where I use my discretion to sit out, and it was a good thing because I skipped out on a lot of bad entries for the day. So, all right, guys, that's it for the day. If you guys have any questions, feel free to hit me up on Discord again. I'm hoping to make this transition to StoneX either this week or next week. I'm just waiting for the confirmation from the regulators. I have to get confirmation that my disclosure document has been updated. And once it's been updated, then we should be good to go. But